Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one life or one starfish at a time. Guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share, all the things. Appreciate you guys getting this out. It's starting to reach some people, and I'm really excited about that because that was a mission. Excited for our guest today. Adam and I just met, so we just had a short chat. We're going to go to story on the call. He runs a law firm. He identifies as an entrepreneur, but just happens to be a lawyer, which I kind of like how he puts that. Family guy, started his business in 2010, so he's been running it for quite a while. His wife also is in the business in a couple of their businesses, so very much family, so we might get into that. But yeah, welcome to the show, Adam.
I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So tell us, we chatted a little bit about your childhood and what got you into entrepreneurship. You were like raised that way. What was your parents' business, and how did that affect you as a child, turning into an adult, I guess?
Yeah, so my parents owned a consumer electronics business, so like car stereos and home theaters, and we're talking 80s and 90s when that industry was like at its peak. And like, not much of an exaggeration, my dad was the best in the world at it, like won world championships, and people would have their cars shipped in from Canada to Erie, Pennsylvania to have them worked on, and all over the country. So yeah, I grew up in a family where success was a big part of what we aspired for. But like my father, I like trophies as well. But also like the struggles of owning a business, like the conversations that families have around the dinner table at night of like problems with customers, problems with employees, problems with cash flow. And I went to business school, I got my MBA, and they're great skills that I learned, but unless you lived it, you have no idea. So that was kind of how I got my start. I did have a job coming out of law school. I worked for one of the big four accounting firms, and I stayed at that job for 366 days because I had to stay a year to keep my signing bonus. And then launched my practice as a side hustle and grew it into now, I think, depending on the day and my mood, we have like 20 to 25 employees. So really have grown it up.
That's funny. I like that. So what got you into being a lawyer? Like, your parents were not in that industry at all, and that involves a lot of schooling.
Yeah.
What decided to go down that route specifically?
I wish I knew. I wish I remembered. I do know that like every book that you read about starting a business says get a good accountant and get a good lawyer. And I thought, gosh, I could probably be that lawyer for people.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I got my law degree and my MBA at the same time. And I actually think my parents really pushed me to get that more like traditional 9 to 5 corporate job because it seemed easier, right? Like,
yeah, they knew the hardships of entrepreneurship.
That's it, right? Like,
yeah,
get your 401k match, get your health insurance, your paychecks will show up consistently
until they lay you off.
Yeah, in relatively predictable amounts. So I tried it, and it wasn't for me, and it still is not for me. But yeah, I think that was the push initially is go get a real job, and your life will be easier than ours was. But what you forget is the flip side of that is I live such an unconventional, fulfilling life right now that I think you can only get from being an entrepreneur or working for an entrepreneur who really gets it. So
oh man, let's go down that path. So tell us about your life. Sell us a dream. What is a dream of being an entrepreneur?
Oh,
and then
man.
We'll get into the hardship, but let's start with the dream.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be hard hitting. All right. So there's 3 kind of categories that I look at, right? How do you spend your time? You got 168 hours in a week. Take out some time for sleeping and bathing and eating and all this stuff that you got to do. How do you want to spend the rest of it? Look at the impact that you want to have, right? What's the dent that you want to put in the world? I love the One Starfish name, right? So time, impact, and money. How much money do you want to make? And as an entrepreneur, you can decide all 3 of those things. And then all you got to do is build a plan and go and do it and adjust that plan and deal with the hurdles and BS that comes along with it. But that's it. Like that, just visualize what you want your life to be, the impact you want to have, how you want to spend your time, and how much money you need to live the life you want to live. And then just go, then it's kind of a math problem from there. So I learned that part of the lesson later in life. I always did well early in my career, and the the business grew. But really, in the last few years, when we moved into the dream house and I bought a race car and I bought an airplane, and I can literally travel the country and see the impact our business has had. We helped to, I'm East Coast, right? Erie, Pennsylvania. I was in Seattle in 2021, actually right around the time I joined Arate. And I walked into this Irish pub, it was like I had some free time in the afternoon, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, we represented an Irish pub. Like, we did work with them in the pandemic, helping with the laws and regulations and PPP loans. So I go in my email, it was the same freaking bar. Like, I'm 3,000 miles away from my house and I'm seeing the stuff that they did. So that's really, really fulfilling to me. I mean, I think that the work that you do for people and the impact that you have on them, the byproduct of that is that you make money. So yeah, I think that's it. And then if you don't have the risk appetite to do that, right? Or you don't have the resilience to just deal with the crap that you have to deal with to achieve that big vision, well, then your next best option is to work for an entrepreneur who understands that. So you come to me, employee, with how much money you want to make and how you want to spend your time and the impact that you want to have. And let's see if we can't align those. And I think great employers and really successful entrepreneurs do that. So employees are helping me fulfill my dreams and I'm helping them fulfill their dreams. That sounds like a pretty darn good place to work for me.
That's really cool.
That is the gospel according to Adam Williams.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about some of its hurdles. When you got into the industry and started your own business, what were some of your biggest hurdles that you remember going through, and how did you overcome them?
So my law firm helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. I am doing this statistically. Our city is like the least entrepreneurial city in America.
Really?
It's the fewest like high growth potential startups. It's people, the majority of people, I don't want to say the majority, but a lot of people are employed by the larger like Fortune 500, 100 companies that are in town. Like, we are not a community that celebrates risk takers. If you go out now, completely related to that, if you go out the front door of my office and go 3 or 4 blocks east, you will be standing in the poorest zip code in the country. So, like, I've kind of positioned myself for a terrible uphill battle with those two things, right? The cool thing is now we've got clients in 41 states. We generate millions of dollars of revenue that come into our town, and we can create jobs and support the nonprofits that we want to support and have even more of an impact. But yeah, I mean, you talk about a stupid business move. You talk about not having product market fit. Start a law firm for entrepreneurs in the least entrepreneurial city in America. So yeah, it's been uphill since then. And then we deal with the more typical stuff that you face, as an employer. The clients who we're usually really good at this, but if you're a business owner and you get one of those upset clients, these people crank it up to 11 because they're so used to not being heard. Like, they've got to go nuclear on your Facebook page and in your emails and tell all their friends how cool you are, because it's the only way that companies care about them.
Right.
So we've had that, and we've trained our team really well to like, hey, can you just listen to this person and find out what went wrong and what they want? And 99.9% of the time, the attitude completely changes and we can fix their problem. And it was usually a misunderstanding. But training our team on that has been tough because our team is used to the type of environment where if the cashier at the gas station does something wrong, you've got to cause a freaking scene in the gas station to get it right. I'm trying to think. I think it was 2021, August of 2021. So we're depths of the pandemic, and our office did a lot of work with the different pandemic programs that were created. Like a lot of people, my family went out and bought an RV during the pandemic because it was a great way to get out of the house and see the country. And we had a trip planned for August of 2021 to go up to Maine. And like, I think it was 2 weeks. Like, we need a break. We need a breather. And half my employees left. Some of them sent their notice the moment we left so that their last day would happen before we got back. And that month we lost half of our team. And
Wow.
you have to decide, do we continue with this trip where we didn't really plan on working, or do we stay here and try and rescue this thing? So that was a turning point for us
What'd you
because,
do? Tell us more.
well, we took the vacation, but we just worked
Okay.
on the vacation. So we balanced it out and did, created memories with our families. It was ironic because my wife and I were both on 75 hard phase one at that point, which is the phase with the cold showers. So
Yes, yes, yes.
we came up with a rule that we could only complain during the cold shower. Like that's the only time.
5 minutes of complaint every day. Woo!
That's it. 5 minutes of negative thoughts, and then the rest of your day, you got to get back to finding the solutions and finding a way through it. So good.
Okay,
good.
so I really like that. Kind of blows my mind a little bit. And any entrepreneurs that are listening, we have a hustle society, and it's something I honestly have struggled with. And when I got diagnosed with MS, it kind of knocked me back and it made me slow down. But like, how did you decide, to not stay? Because a lot of people, I'm not saying one way is right or wrong, but like, what made you decide, you know what, we're just going to go anyway, and not stay and try to fix it? That's a major problem in a business when half your people quit.
You used one of my trigger words, hustle society. I hate the concept of hustle and grind. It's necessary to do it at times, but as a lifestyle, it's freaking miserable. It's freaking miserable. No one is happy hustling and grinding all the time, right? But that's why they got to post about it on social media all the time so that they, their egos get boosted. But
I probably do that sometimes.
every now and then. But again, you got to be willing to do it. You got to be willing to put in those long days. But as a lifestyle, it's horrible, right? And we have decided that our businesses now are going to work for us, right? If I wanted a crappy job, I would just go get a crappy job. Too many people that are self-employed, all they've done is create a crappy job for themselves.
It's true.
So now we didn't have to be physically here in order to get through this, right? We can work remotely, and the team that was left over, my wife and I kind of did some analysis and said, the people that left are the people that we kind of wanted to leave anyway, and we'll get through it. So we did.
Got rid of the cancer in the society.
Yeah. So the one thing we did is I had like the phone stuck to my windshield in my truck, and we pulled into like a grocery store parking lot in Vermont or New Hampshire. And I did sort of a let's rally the troops and give a state of the firm and tell everybody that, hey, this is scary, but it's going to be fine because we've been through worse, right? If you can thrive and grow during the pandemic and government shutdowns, you can survive a couple of employees walking out the door. So that was we still talk about that moment in our family and our house, because that was really a turning point of like how are we going to show up as business owners and what are we going to do about it? So.
And why do you obviously you analyze like what happened? Why do you think they all left at once? And, is there anything that you would say to someone that could be done to prevent it? Or is that just kind of part of growing pains?
I hope it's not part of growing pains. I hope people can learn from life is too short to make all of the mistakes on your own. So here's what we learned from that. Culture for us has become the ultimate hiring criteria. We used to look for, do you have the experience? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the education? We would look for that first. And if you were kind of a pain in the neck and you didn't believe in our core values and you may not be a culture fit, we said, no big deal. We got to get the job done. And we've completely flipped that. So we no longer hire first for experience. We no longer hire first for expertise. We hire first for, are you going to be a fit in this office? And what happened with some of those people is some of them were hired before we really established those core values and what our culture was going to be. And then one of them we hired after we established that stuff, but we sort of made an exception because we needed the help. And that was actually where the cancer kind of started, is that person came in and would rally, get people in the room and tell them like, oh, it's so bad, blah, 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 blah. I wonder what most of those people are doing now, but I can tell you it's not much. So yeah, that was the lesson that we learned, is we now hire for culture fit. And if you're not going to be a culture fit, you're not going to work for us. And it's our job to, we realized, my wife and I were on vacation a couple weeks ago, and we realized we hadn't been in the office in like 10 days. And we're like, we should stop working from home for a couple days and head in. And, we had a happy hour for the team and ordered lunch and did that stuff to like, remind everybody of what it's like to work here. So yeah,
Right.
culture's become huge. Core values have become huge, and it's a lot better now. I mean, we still make hiring mistakes like anybody else will, but it's not as we're much better at it now than we used to be.
What are some questions, if you have anything specific, because I'm curious, that you ask people when you're in the hiring to make sure that they are a good culture fit? Is there anything like that, or you just kind of feel them out?
It starts with our job ads. The job ads that we write are some of the most noteworthy, exceptional, memorable job ads you'll ever read. So I'm looking for an assistant right now, and our job ad starts with, some days I don't remember the names, but some days I'm that woman from The Devil Wears Prada. I'm a complete tyrant. I'm a pain in the ass to be around, but I'm having an impact. Some days I'm like Batman and I need Alfred. I'm saving the world and need my help. And other days, I'm the lawyer and I need my Donna from the show Suits, right? And we give these examples of like, here's what this job is going to look like. We're pretty transparent with that. One of our core values is take your job seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. We can see from the moment they apply whether they fit into that core value, because we get responses. Some people just hit the apply button. Other people will craft the cover letter in response to the job ad, because they say, I feel like you're speaking directly to me. And The Devil Wears Prada is such a, I could be your Emily, because there were two Emilys in The Devil Wears Prada.
Right.
And those, there was one that like really got into the superhero references and wrote her whole cover letter around that. Those are our people, right? Like I get that. So it starts with the application, the interviews, the recruiting process. We have a written quiz. Another one of our core values is figure it out. And when we do onboarding for our team, we show the opening scene from Tony Hawk's documentary. It's called Until the Wheels Come Off. And there's like a crappy bootleg version of it on YouTube. This is the best skateboarder ever, right? You know who Tony Hawk is?
Yes, I do.
I think everybody knows who Tony Hawk is.
Pretty much,
Nobody could name another skateboard, right? That's and the first 15 minutes of that documentary are him falling on his face. Like, this guy is the greatest of all time, and he falls like 17 times in the opening scene. So we ask questions during the interview process about what people would perceive as failures, your biggest mistake, your biggest regret. And if people use, this is inside baseball, hopefully none of our employees listen to this, or potential employees. If people use the phrase, well, I had to figure it out in that interview process, like, we know that they get it, right? Our clients are asking us to figure things out for them. Sometimes we're asking our team to figure things out for the business. Like, that is the essence of what we do as problem solvers. So we listen very carefully for words like that.
I like that, man. This stuff's so good. I'm like, I need to be taking notes. I listen to this. Yeah. I love it. So, as a lawyer, what are some things that you see that, entrepreneurs maybe need to watch on the actual like law side of life, like to not get into or to get into? Or I haven't had to deal with lawyers myself as far as like what I do, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs, like you said, that is a big thing. Accounting and
let me take the obvious bias out of this that I will have being a lawyer. First of all, I don't really love most lawyers, but the problem that most entrepreneurs make in the legal area is the same mistake they make everywhere else. They think they got to do it all on their own. So they're going to go and research licenses and regulations and compliance, and they're going to Google how to set up their own LLC, and they're going to use freaking Chat GPT to make the world's worst contracts. Hire an expert. Like, a good lawyer will tell you, you don't need to hire me for this because it's not a big deal or it's good enough, right? Now, you got to get a good lawyer. There's plenty of other lawyers that will say, yes, I can help you start your business, and it's going to cost you $48,000.
$40,000.
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, don't try and figure out your social media marketing on your own. Don't try and figure out your email campaigns on your own. Don't try and build ClickFunnels on your own. Like, hire experts for as many things as possible, because what makes entrepreneurs successful is speed of implementation. And if you're busy trying to figure it out on your own, the thing's never going to get off the ground. So I'm giving a speech tomorrow to like 30 brand new entrepreneurs to explain exactly this to them of like, get someone that you trust as an advisor that can tell you what you should be doing and should not be doing, because legal stuff is particularly more complex than a lot of the other stuff. And the risks of getting it wrong are significantly higher. There's this new stupid law that we have in the States that took effect January 1st called the Corporate Transparency Act. And it's this stupid registration that shouldn't take a whole lot of time. And if you don't do it, this applies to most businesses in America. And most businesses in America don't even know about it. If you don't do it, you can be fined $500 per day for not going through this registration process or not doing it correctly. Wow. Why would you risk that? So let me answer my own question. Too many entrepreneurs look at the cost of hiring a lawyer, because we're not going to be the lowest cost provider of services for new businesses, and say, I can't afford it. I would tell you, if you have a business or business idea that can't afford the legal help, you don't have a real business. Think bigger about your business. Think about how you can have a bigger impact. Because if you can't afford $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 for the basics to get started, you're not going to last very long. Like we need to think about ways to make this business bigger so that you can afford the things that you need. Because the reality is the business is going to be more successful that way anyway. So
I love that. Let's touch more on that, because actually I'm curious. So as a lawyer getting into a law firm, a lot of times people are in my industry or in a lot of different industries similar, where they don't really, I don't know, I guess go to a lot of schooling, whatever. They have an issue sometimes with a price point. So I'm just curious, because I don't know, how long did it take for you to get out of student loans, if you had any, and actually become cash flow positive in your business?
Let's just talking. I don't know how long it took me to pay off my loans. I kept my cost for grad school relatively low. I mean, it took me a few years, right?
Yeah.
But I think I came out of school with $75,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Like not a huge
number.
Not
too bad for a lawyer. Yeah.
Here's the irony, though. I am right now in the process of taking out a loan for my business for $1 million. Right? Like the scale of the number of digits that we deal with. 75 grand, like I could pay that off in a month now if I focused on it, and before it took me years and years and years. So it's a great example of learning to think bigger. Like, what if this is like the exercise I do with my wife? What if you took the phrase, that's a lot of money, out of your vocabulary? Like, what would that mean? So when you see $100,000 car and somebody says that's a lot of money, is it though? Like, compared to a Hyundai, it is, but compared to a jet, it's not. So maybe we should just take "it's a lot of money" out of our vocabulary and just focus on value. And then we can say, well, it's not worth the money, and that's perfectly fine. But to say, like, and this was a mindset thing I got from my parents, the opposite of it. They will go to a restaurant and order the fish tacos because it's cheaper than the fish fillet, even though it's the same piece of mahi-mahi, just cut up differently, right?
Right.
I don't even look at the price at restaurants anymore. And it's not because, oh, I'm so rich and I'm so successful. It's the inverse. I don't worry about that little crap anymore, so that I can focus on the big stuff. And now, we're working on $1 million deals. I was actually really joking, because I was in my sweatpants as I was negotiating with these lenders. So yeah, we take that mindset of what a lot of money is and throw it away. And then we can actually have like critical, criteria-driven, intelligent conversations about what good investments are. So man, I took your question about student loans and completely went on a different tangent with it.
That was so good. I'm like, you're speaking my thing. I'm like, man, I got to think on this, because I'm the one that's like checks out the prices at the restaurant still. I'm very much that way. Yeah. And I say I'm Dutch, so I'm very frugal. Sometimes it's like you just spent like 2 hours trying to save like $20. So I was like, oh yeah, that was probably a waste of time.
That's a great example. People do that crap all the time. Like I said, I'm hiring an assistant, and I spent probably 4 hours yesterday booking hotels and flights and rental cars for a couple of trips I have to take. And I'm like, I would pay someone thousands of dollars for that half a day back, because I could go back and do more profitable things. But we're I'm working on it. Well, I'll
You know,
find
it's
mine.
funny. Kind of side note. I love, that's one thing I decided. And when I heard someone say, like, if it's $20 an hour job or 30, whatever it is, like hire someone unless you really love it. And so travel is actually something, it's funny because I do a lot of travel and I was like, I should hire someone, but like, I like it. So now my Sunday, that's like my fun is like, I spend hours like, okay, where there's this one and there's this one. And like, it's funny.
There are
So
certain
I could
trips
become
where
a
I love
travel
it.
agent if I
Yep.
wanted to, but I don't want to.
There are certain trips where I like booking it, but this was like I got 4
Yeah.
trips in April and I'm booking all this stuff. But I that is actually a great point that you made because it's not all about getting rid of the low value activities. I love
Right.
mowing my lawn.
Now I was
I
going to say
love
mowing is a big one for a lot of
it.
people. Like they like it. So
Yep,
just
I
do it.
love doing it.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll change my own brakes on my car because I enjoy it and I just want to prove that I can do it, right? So
Yeah.
it's not all about that, but you at least got to keep in mind,
But if you hate it, definitely like someone cleans my house. Normally someone shops for my groceries.
Yep,
They
yep,
do things. They like to do these. Um,
exactly.
that's so cool. So how long did your business take to become cash flow positive? How many years
You
or,
know,
you know, was it faster? Did it actually turn around on a level like that? I'm curious.
yeah, I mean, starting as a lawyer, like I didn't really have a small business. I was just self-employed. So it was cash flow
Right.
positive from the beginning because I didn't have any expenses. I was
Right.
95% profit.
Right.
Um, so where it got
Okay.
harder was, when you hire your first employee and now you've got a cost, but that frees up your time for more high value activities. And then you hire your second employee and it's like, my payroll just doubled every month,
And my income didn't quite yet.
yeah. So that can get really tough. And now, again, the numbers it's funny laughing at what the numbers were like back then. So yeah, we were cash flow positive really from the beginning. But on the other hand, I was limited. Like there's only so much I can work to bill hours to generate revenue when I also have to make sure the email works and the phone system works and the bathroom has enough toilet paper and I've got enough ink in my pens and all. Like when I'm worried about all of that stuff, there's a ceiling that you hit. And for most lawyers, solo lawyers, if they can get to 250 or $300,000 of revenue in a year, they're really cranking pretty hard to hit that number. And then some of them completely abandon any semblance of work-life balance, and
I
they
was
can
going to
get
say when you're running like because I'm curious, when you're running 300, $400,000 a year in revenue, is that actual money in their pocket or is that like gross? Like is that
yeah,
before all
that's
the
top line revenue. So they'll have rent and they may have
yes.
a
So
legal
take
assistant.
home's not quite that.
Oh, the average. This is the thing that people don't understand. The average solo lawyer in America makes $68,000 a year.
Wow.
That like lawyers are rich. They make so much money. They're charging $300 an hour. Yeah, except solo like shingle hanging attorneys can only bill 1.2 hours per day on average
Really?
because they got all this other stuff to do, right? They got billing, they got marketing, they got, whatever else. So yeah, there's definitely a misconception about how much money lawyers make. And I tell people like none of my
Worth lot.
success has come from being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
All of my success has come from being an entrepreneur. I just happen to own a law firm. And yes, that can be a pretty
Right.
healthy business to own if you run it properly. But it's not that I can charge somebody $500 an hour for my services. You don't get rich doing that because there's still only 168 hours in a week. There's a limit to how much you can actually produce. And maybe it's not like this for everybody, but my first hours of the week aren't as good as my last hours of the week if I'm like really grinding that whole week. They're not all productive hours are created equal when it comes to value. So I'm very mindful of where my head's at when I'm doing things.
So if someone is though on that top end of a law firm, because this is something I've heard lots, and I just think it's good for listeners because lawyers and doctors have this thing. But I want to, if you haven't heard this and you're listening, this is, I think, important. The ones that are making the 250,000 and above, because I know there are some, what kind of hours as a whole are most of these, or running for a partner or running for, that kind of thing, not being an entrepreneur, what kind of hours are these guys actually working?
Yeah, I mean, there's a firm in town that if you drive by their office Saturday morning, it looks like a Tuesday morning. not only are there lawyers there, but all the support staff is there too. And they may get to leave at noon or 2 o'clock, but like that's their Saturday. Tomorrow, my Saturday is I'm going to give this presentation to 30 entrepreneurs because I love doing that. Like getting on stages is my thing, right? And then I'm going to the airport because there's a couple cool airplanes flying in that they want to like show off in an open house to try and
Oh,
sell
cool.
something. So I'm going to take my kids and go and look at that, right? And then we're going to take my daughter to her piano lessons. Like that's how I want to be spending my Saturday. And I think it's the same blue collar and white collar mindset of I'm going to sell my time for money. It's just doctors and lawyers get to charge a higher rate, but they still got to sell their time. Entrepreneurs flip it. I buy my time back. And because of that, my impact is greater and I can move. I'm more successful. Things are done better because I get to hire experts and I get to move at a much faster pace. And that was where when I flipped that switch of using money to get time as opposed to selling my time to get money, that's when, our trajectory went from this to this. If you're listening, I just drew a line with my hand.
Yeah, I love it. That's going straight up. Oh man, I could go on and on, but I know we can't go forever. So always in wrapping up, I ask 3 final questions and then anything that we didn't touch on. Like I said, I'm getting so much out of this. This is great. First and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
Keep trying things until you figure it out.
Cool.
Is that my only sentence or can I explain
You
that
can
further?
explain. Yeah, go. Yeah, I was like, wow, he's like really one sentence.
Yeah, it's tough. You don't know unless you try it, right? Until I flew first class for the first time, I didn't know how awesome it was. Every time I go somewhere and there's an upgrade available, I'm going to get the upgrade. And sometimes when I go back, I don't want it. It wasn't worth it. I didn't like it. But when it comes to purpose is such a big thing. I'm still trying to figure mine out. So I just keep trying stuff. So don't feel like you have to get it right the first time. Because then what'll happen is you won't even make a decision because you're afraid of getting it wrong. So keep test driving things until you find what you love doing. And accept the fact that as you get older and you learn new things and you have new experiences, your purpose can change. And that's perfectly okay.
So good. I love that. Second question. What's one quote, like what's one of your favorite quotes and why?
It's not the critic who counts. So it's the man in the arena. The credit goes to the man in the arena whose face is marred by blood and sweat and blah, 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 blah. We get a lot of critics, especially in our town. They've always got better ways of doing things, but they never actually do anything. So yeah, the man in the arena it's my wallpaper on one of my computer screens and it's hanging up at our office. And yeah, great quote. Great
Love
speech.
that. Ignore the critics. And last question is, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Only one word?
Or sentence, like just what do you want on your gravestone? How do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, go away. Like, I'm gone. Go back to your life. Right?
Go away.
Focus on you.
So cool.
Stop mourning and go do something else.
That's so good. I love it. So, like I said, you run into someone in a coffee shop. They're like, man, that was awesome. Learn a lot about like ignore the critics, build a business, not like self-employed. Those were a couple of things I took out of it. Get out of the hustle mentality and build prioritize your priorities, I guess. But what's something we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
I think it's important for entrepreneurs to find opportunities to be inspired. So make sure that you're taking time to do that. Take the vacations, get the new experiences, try new things, and really like stop and breathe for a minute and just see or experience something awesome and inspiring. I think that's really important. So for me, I pay a lot of attention to what's in my environment and what's, like before we started this call, I had to go and straighten out those books back there. Like
Right.
Your environment matters. The people you surround yourself with matter, whether they're employees or friends or family or whatever. So yeah, find opportunities to be inspired by things.
Wow, that's so good. Guys, I don't have to ask you to share this. This is gold. Share this. If you need a lawyer, reach out. We'll have Adam's, all his information in the show notes, or if you have any questions, I'm sure he'll be super helpful to help. So really grateful for that. Guys, let's go out there. Let's change the world one starfish or one person at a time. If we can change the world one person at a time together, we can change the whole world. Thanks for being on, Adam.
Thank you.